All righty, there we are. Good morning, good afternoon. Hello, everybody, wherever you're joining from. Thank you for being with us today. Here we are with another one of our VCF webinars. Got a lot of good content today, fresh out of Explorer. Wow, I tell you what, Explorer was absolutely crazy this year. Sehjung, you were out there this year. How was it?
Oh, it was great. We met lots of customers and partners and had lots of great interactions.
Excellent. And I heard you had a particularly popular session this year.
Oh, the we had the advanced operations sessions. Yeah, we had quite a few, couple hundred people there. That was great.
Awesome, awesome, good to hear. Yeah, no, it looked like the attendance was really fantastic this year, and the certifications were incredibly popular. Pretty much, it was like waiting in front of the Apple Store before a release. People had tents set up, waiting their turn in line. So, definitely bringing that back next year. This year, hey, we're keeping the party going right now with Explore on Tour. So if you're out in the geos, we are thinking about you. I know a lot of you remember back in the VMware days when we did Explore in Barcelona, which was fantastic. City will always have my heart with its delicious food. But now we're moving out to various locations. In fact, coming up just around the corner, we've got Mumbai and London coming up next weekend. So if you're out there, be sure to check it out. And then we're going to keep going with Paris, Sydney, Tokyo, and Frankfurt all the way out into November. So just right one after another. And again, this is the registration for these sessions has been absolutely unexpected. I'm really stoked to see people are taking advantage of the opportunities out there. We will be doing the certification programs in most of the geos. So with your pass, you can go get some custom certifications at those locations. And again, we'll be doing our breakout sessions, a lot of the programming like we had in Las Vegas, but we're bringing it out to you globally. And I can almost guarantee you this program is going to be expanding next year. But today, that's not why we're here. Today, we've actually got a whole bunch of folks with us because we're going to be going over the infrastructure modernization with VMware Cloud Foundation. So Sejong, hey, why don't you go ahead and take it away? I'll stop sharing here and you can show us what you got.
Okay, great. Yeah, thanks, Anders, and also thanks, Simon, for helping set up this webinar. S- we have a team of people here. So my name is Sehjung from marketing, and then we also have Sachin Alex, as well as Kelsey Lemon and Puneet Chawla and Kyle Gleed, and they're from our technical marketing team as well. So what we're going to do today is we're going to show some information about infrastructure modernization, as well as show some demos that the team has created. So we'll go ahead and get started. So in terms of infrastructure modernization, it's basically one of the pillars of what we consider our use cases in terms of uh, the entire business benefits of VMware Cloud Foundation. And today, what we're going to do is we're going to cover some of the reasons to use VMware Cloud Foundation and some of the customer benefits and some of the whys. Then we'll show a customer story for each of those examples, and then we'll show some demos as well too, and some steps you'll see there. So in terms of challenges, so customers, we have different personas that we work with. So whether it's a platform engineer or a cloud admin or maybe a cloud admin that's looking at the edge, some of the things that they are concerned about is just how to keep that infrastructure running constantly, whether, every single day of the year, 24/7 and making that infrastructure run and then also just measuring the performance and giving them the tools to basically understand how they can optimize that infrastructure, whether it's turning off VMs or containers that are not being used, or reallocating some of the physical infrastructure that's running that that workload, as well as just being able to manage the costs and optimizing that as well too. So, and then some of the challenges for the edge, and the edge is, places like at a retail location or a factory floor. Some of the requirements for that are a little bit different, but they need all the features and functionality that's available across VMware Cloud Foundation. So having that scaling challenge as well is something that customers have talked to us about too. So in terms of how we look at the different business reasons to use VMware Cloud Foundation and some of these use cases. Infrastructure modernization is what we're going to talk about today. That's on the left side of this chart. And then next week, you'll hear from Alina and Taka and team and the TMMs about application modernization, which is in the middle. And then later, you're going to hear about security modernization. So we'll go ahead and get started in the infrastructure modernization part. And one of the key things is the actual day zero build. And then there's something called VCF installer. Kyle Gleed will talk about that today. And the whole point is to build your VCF environment, whether you're starting from a greenfield or you have an existing vSphere environment and you want to bring that up to a VCF 9.0 environment, so you get all the benefits of VCF 9.0. And then also being able to do that with a lot of pre-checks, so that way you can verify things before you start building that environment. And on the second side, we also wanted to talk about optimized infrastructure and operations. So we'll have Sachin talk about some of the benefits there, whether it's this new concept called fleet management, which is how we look after all the hosts and all the infrastructure that you have is defined as a fleet. And we'll have Sachin go into more detail about that. But just as you're maintaining that infrastructure, just having that consistency. So when you do something for one part of the fleet, you can apply it to the others. Or if you need to have a more granular control, you can be able to alter things for different parts of your VCF environment. And then also a lot of the new infrastructure improvements that have happened and been announced at Explore just recently. And then we're going to also talk about the data center edge, and we're going to do a demo of network extension. And we have Puneet Chawla, who created a demo to show us. And it'll show the mobility across VCF clouds, whether you're going from on-premises, moving those workloads to like a certified public cloud through a partner and moving those workloads where you need it, whether it's for bursting or for other business purposes where you might need to move workloads across your private cloud infrastructure. So we'll go ahead and get started. So the first part is build. So in terms of build, what we have is we have VCF installer, and that's the new appliance in VCF 9.0. And it's an improvement over what we had before. We had a spreadsheet called Cloud Builder before, where you had to use a spreadsheet to sort of build out your environment. But now this is all integrated into VCF installer. And also we have some screens in VCF operations where you can help build this repeatable infrastructure in the sense that you build your first fleet out, and we'll have Kyle show some of the screens there. And then we also can do a lot of integration with existing environments. So we know most customers will have vSphere in their environment, and they're going to be running vSphere 8. They're not going to have 9 right away, but then how do we move that environment over to a 9.0 environment and some of the steps there? So we do have a customer, Charlotte Pipe and Foundry, who have adopted VMware Cloud Foundation. And, some of the reasons why they've adopted it is because of lifecycle management and, just upgrading the infrastructure. It's a lot easier that they found in terms of using the automation capabilities we have within VCF versus not having all the tools that come with VCF, because VCF really is basically all the different components, whether it's network, storage, compute, as well as using operations, as well as automation on top of the vSphere environment that you have. So you can sort of modernize your infrastructure. So we'll go ahead and, in terms of Charlotte Pipe and Foundry, they have several factories, but then what they do is they make pipes and PVC, and, a lot of maybe homes as well as businesses, they will have a Charlotte Pipe and Foundry, products within their buildings. So this is a customer that actually has adopted VMware Cloud Foundation, and we do have a video as well as a case study online where you can read more details about why they've adopted VMware Cloud Foundation. So we'll go ahead and we'll go with pass it over to Kyle, and I'll let you go ahead and just tell me when you want me to move.
All right, thanks, Sehjung, and welcome. So thank you again for attending. I am going to go over the VCF installer. So of course, as we look at getting started with VMware Cloud Foundation and taking advantage of the capabilities it provides in building a modern private cloud, it all starts with being able to stand it up and deploy it. And with VCF, we have the VCF installer, and this is essentially an OVA template that you can download. You log into the Broadcom's software site, go to downloads, and you will see the VCF installer listed there available for download. Note that despite the name VCF installer, this installer can also deploy both the VCF, the VMware Cloud Foundation, as well as VVF. And essentially what it is it has the intelligence to go in and to deploy vCenter server, to configure the vCenter inventory, to add hosts to the inventory, to configure vSphere clusters, as well as to deploy and configure VCF networking to include the vSphere distributed switches as well as NSX in the case of Cloud Foundation. So it's basically a really nice way to be able to go in and quickly stand up the full SDDC software stack without having to go in and manually piecemeal and deploy each component one at a time. Now, Sehjung alluded to the former cloud builder. So if you're familiar with VMware Cloud Foundation 5.x and the previous versions of Cloud Foundation, we did have an appliance called the Cloud Builder, and this does replace that appliance. And where the previous appliance, it did involve the use of a spreadsheet where you provide the input parameters that would then get imported, converted to a JSON, and then the Cloud Builder would use that JSON to deploy. With the VCF installer, we no longer have that. And now what you do is you'll go in and you'll use the deployment wizard. It will walk you through gathering the required inputs, and it will use that information to then deploy your VCF instance. And a couple of notes here about the VCF installer. It is a service that runs as part of an appliance we call the SDDC Manager. So if you go out to download it, and you'll see the VCF installer listed in the download sites, but you'll notice that the OVA you download is called the SDDC Manager. So if you're a Cloud Foundation and you're looking for the SDDC Manager and you're looking for the VCF installer, be aware they are the same appliance. The way it works is when you first deploy the appliance, it will default to running in what we call installer mode. And this is a mode where it will come up and you'll see when you connect to it, you use the browser to just, you boot it up. It will configure itself and then use a browser to connect to it. And you'll see the UI similar to what you see here on the screen here. And that's the default mode, that installer mode. And that is how the appliance will initially start up. And then when you go in and you deploy Cloud Foundation and you configure Cloud Foundation, depending on where it's deployed, it can reconfigure itself and it will switch over to the SDDC Manager mode. So just a couple of comments there on that. And let's go ahead and go to the next slide. So once you have deployed the VCF installer and it's running, it's only about 2 gig in size, and that's quite small in comparison to the former Cloud Builder. And the reason why it is so much smaller is because we no longer bundle the binaries with the VCF installer. So this has a couple of benefits to our customers, because when you deploy the VCF installer, it doesn't come with any stagnant or old binaries. Instead, what it does is it's a fresh install of the VCF installer, and then you'll go in and you'll just basically register it by configuring a depot. And we have support for both a connected or an online depot, as well as a disconnected depot as well, where you can basically stand up your own web server. And so it supports both the connected environments as well as those dark sites and those environments that are not connected. But you'll connect it to the depot, and once you're connected, you'll go in, you'll download the binaries. And in addition to setting up those depots, if you are a dark site and you are interested in learning more about how to set up the offline depot, we do have the VMware Cloud Foundation download tool, which you can use to help download the binaries along with all the metadata, so that you can basically copy that into a web server that can be accessed as that offline depot. Let's go to the next slide. So with VCF 9 and with the VCF installer, you'll need to become familiar with a new concept, and that is this concept of a VCF fleet. And so with the VCF installer, we're able to deploy the full private cloud stack. So here you see on the screenshot on the left an example of deploying a new VCF fleet, and on the right deploying a VCF instance to an existing VCF fleet. So it's important to understand the difference between a fleet and a VCF instance. And essentially, when you deploy a new VCF fleet, you're going to instantiate a new instance of VCF operations along with VCF automation, and you're going to deploy a new VCF management domain and register that with the fleet level components. And so the management domain will be comprised of a vCenter server, an NSX instance, as well as a vSphere cluster plus the SDDC manager. And so when you scale up and scale out, as you deploy your first fleet, of course, you can have multiple VCF instances registered with operations and automation. So rather than have to deploy another instance of operations and automation every time you deploy a new VCF instance, you can choose to deploy a VCF instance and register it with the existing fleet. And that's where the second option comes in. So you want to be familiar with this concept of a fleet. You want to think about your topology. You want to think about how you plan to deploy Cloud Foundation, how you plan to build your private cloud, and how you plan to scale it, as that will affect how you answer these questions. Let's go ahead and go to the next slide. And here I have a couple of examples of some very simple topologies. Go ahead and fill this out. It's got, I think, 3 animations. So here you'll see on the left, we have a very simple example. We have a single VCF fleet with a single VCF instance. And again, you'll see those fleet level components being VCF operations and automation. And you can also deploy, VCF logs, VCF operations for networks as well. For simplicity on the slide, we just kind of focus on operations and automation, as those are the 2 primary components. But here you have a single VCF instance with a VCF management domain where you're running your workloads. And in the middle there, you'll see another example where we have 2 VCF fleets, both of them running in this site labeled as Paris, and they're both registered with VCF operations and automation. The significance here is you do have 2 separate VCF instances, but they are part of the same VCF fleet. And then you go here on the right, where you see the VCF fleet, and here you have VCF instances spread across Paris and London. So here you have something that mimics more of a disaster recovery or a business continuity type topology, where you can set up different VCF instances across different locations, where you can use VMware Live Recovery and similar capabilities to enable a DR capability. So again, when you're deploying VCF, one of the first things you're going to see is that screen asking you if you want to deploy a new VCF fleet or add an existing a new VCF instance to an existing fleet. So make sure you understand the concept of fleet. Make sure you understand the end game of where you are wanting to get to, and you design accordingly. And then once you have that design in place, you can go ahead and use the VCF installer to get started. So go ahead and go to the next slide. So along with deploying a VCF instance, another new feature that's new to VCF 9 that I think a lot of customers will really appreciate is with VCF, we do have a somewhat prescriptive topology. We kind of look at all the different components that make up the software-defined data center or the private cloud, and we have an approach for how we can deploy these that's repeatable and scalable. And in the past, with that prescriptive topology, one of the things that we did is we had we required that the components like the NSX management cluster, the VCF operations cluster, and the VCF automation be deployed as redundant clusters with 3 nodes each. And this creates a bit of a footprint, especially for smaller deployments or deployments that might be running at an edge location. And so with VCF 9, we have added this new concept of a deployment model. And here you'll see highlighted in yellow, we have 2 options, the simple deployment model and the high availability deployment model. The high availability deployment model, if we start with that second one, that is essentially the way we've done things in the past. And with that, you're going to deploy your NSX, your VCF operations, your VCF automation as clusters comprised of 3 nodes each. And this provides additional level of availability, but also provides improved scalability as you have more components that make up those instances. And so this is more for a production type deployment where you plan on scaling up and scaling out quite large. So you have that option. If we go to the simple deployment model, this is for testing, for POCs, for edge deployments. This is for environments where you'll need a smaller footprint. And here you simply click the simple option and the installer will know It looks like we lost the slides, but I'll keep talking. But the installer will know that only a single instance of those components will be deployed. So the next question then becomes, well, hey, if I deploy with a simple mode, can I switch over to the high availability mode? And the answer is yes. It's very easy to do that. You simply deploy with the simple mode, and then once your deployment's up and running and you're ready to then scale out, you just go into the fleet management capabilities inside of VCF operations, and you can basically just add additional nodes and scale out. So Sehjung, any idea why we're not seeing the slides? Or
Okay, are you seeing them now?
No, I'm not seeing the slides. Is
Okay.
anybody else missing them? Oh, here they come. Okay.
Okay, yeah,
There
I
we
think
go.
my Zoom must have reset, but it's back
Okay.
now.
All right. So yeah, so that we're back. So that's the simple versus the high availability deployment model. I'm going to go ahead and hand it off back
Okay.
to Sehjung, and we'll continue with the next sessions. And I'll go look at the Q&A and see if there's any outstanding questions. And please feel free to post any questions in the Q&A. We'll get to those as soon as we can.
Yeah, thanks, Kyle. It's great to see that, with VCF 9.0, there's build. It's a lot easier to start building with the VCF installer. So that's something new for customers. So we'll go ahead and have Sachin cover the second of the three sections in terms of modernized infrastructure. Thanks, Sachin.
Hey, thanks, Sehjung. Hey, thanks, Kyle, for guiding us through the entire build process. So now that we have our private cloud deployed, it is essential that we set it up in a way that it reduces administrative hassles for its day-to-day users. Cloud admins crave for consistency when it comes to matters regarding the infrastructure. They face issues like multiple logins to access various parts of the infrastructure, switching between different screens to manage compute, storage, and network, and in general, scaling things and implementing them across the entire stack. That is a big problem for them. So this is exactly where VCF helps optimize operations. It provides a unified console, a unified place for private cloud operations and management experience. Licensing in general has been made a lot easier. It provides better visibility into your entire VCF environment. So unlike your previous versions where you had multiple license keys, you now have this one single license file. So this makes it a lot easier to track your core count and your license consumption. Now, single sign-on is for your entire VCF stack. This also now supports identity solutions like ADFS, Azure AD, Okta, Ping, etc. Certificate management through VCF operations provides a consistent experience across your VCF landscape. It enables non-disruptive updates, auto-renewal with various certificate authorities, and the option to upload third-party signed certificates. And finally, you have your password management. So password management is now seamless and integrated with your VCF, and it provides other capabilities like password updates, rotations, and expiration alerts. Secondly, VCF provides faster time to value. So with the native integration of NSX VPCs into vSphere UI, even with limited networking experience, VI admins can now effortlessly create and manage VPC networks and subnets directly within the vSphere UI. So they can expose these resources to the application teams for consumption. Then you have your supervisor configuration. So with minimal day zero configuration, admins can start with a basic supervisor deployment while retaining the flexibility to evolve the supervisor in a future configuration. And in that future configuration, then you can add your setup capabilities like your load balancer, your workload configurations, etc. And finally, you have cost-efficient performance at scale. So with global deduplication for vSAN and ESA, we have significantly improved storage efficiency and reduced the overall storage costs. You have advanced memory tiering with NVMe, which allows users to add memory capacity to a host by using NVMe device as a secondary memory tier that is installed locally on the host. So what this does is it helps increase the memory within the ESXi host. So this typically, comes in handy when you're dealing with large data sets, such as big data analytics, e-commerce platforms, and even your video streaming platforms. So what this does is it improves your overall memory utilization and helps you reduce your TCO. And finally, vSphere provides unmatched performance with support scaling up to 960 cores per socket. Customers can now consolidate workloads onto a single host, achieving exceptional power efficiency and maximizing resource utilization. Next slide, please. So we've deployed the VCF stack. We've set it up for scale and consistency. But now when you deal with day two operations, cloud admins lack that end-to-end visibility of the infrastructure and workloads running on them. Whenever there's an issue that pops up, there is a high dependence on the VCF support team. The problem-solving process is mostly reactive, which leads to larger downtimes and a slower analysis of the root problems. So this is where your diagnostics and VCF health come into the picture. It's a proactive approach to maintaining the health of your VCF stack. You get a proper view of your VCF component health, as well as visibility into functionalities like vMotion, snapshots, etc. Next, you have observability and workload operations. So VCF is literally your single platform for VMs as well as container workloads. What it does is it converts raw data in the form of metrics, events, logs, and flows, and it converts them into visualizations like dashboards and reports. So what this helps is it helps admins to stay on top of their private cloud environment. And finally, you have capacity and FinOps, where VCF helps you plan your resource utilization to the fullest so that you know what your cloud costs are. With the help of an advanced capacity engine, you can plan, assess, and optimize your existing capacity. Total cost of ownership gives you visibility into your cloud spends, and mechanisms like showback and chargeback, they bring a certain cost accountability within your organization. So everyone is actually on board and they know their functionality and the costs that they are dealing with. Next slide, please. So Mary Washington Healthcare is one of our healthcare customers based out of Virginia. VCF is transforming how Mary Washington's IT operations are managed. So the impact here is lesser unplanned downtime and improved application performance. You can see automation happening across the organization. Mundane activities like password updates, patch compliance, and your certificate changes, tasks that usually take a longer time, are now being completed within minutes. So all in all, this is enabling impactful digital workflows and improving the experience for frontline medical teams. Now, Sehjung will explain how we can extend the VCF beyond the data center to the edge.
VCF Health can be accessed under the Infrastructure dropdown. Here you can use the VCF View page to identify instances and domains where immediate action is required, and the component pages to investigate these issues and monitor less important ones. Then there is also the instance level view of VCF, where the Objects with Critical Issues column shows the sum of ESX, NSX, vSAN, and vCenter instances with critical issues such as unresponsive hosts, significant NTP issues, and even DNS lookup failures. Now let's drill down a bit and see the health of this specific instance of vCenter within our environment by clicking on View Details. Here we can see connectivity issues in terms of reachability of vCenter by network, UI, and API. And in this page, you can also see the connectivity trend over the last 7 days, as well as investigate any unexpected outages. You can also see utilization of CPU, memory, and space, and see if their thresholds are at risk. And you can view the health and run state of your critical vCenter services and see how they are trending. You can also see how core capabilities such as vMotion are functioning, including a trend chart that displays the total number as well as the failed number of vMotions in the last 7 days, as well as a chart that displays the top 10 clusters grouped by failed vMotions. You can also get a breakdown of each VM name, the reason for the failure, as well as insight on the user or service that initiated each vMotion task. And of course, you can monitor the status of your snapshots. On the landing page, we present the view of total versus failed number of snapshots in the last 7 days. And the snapshot page also details 2 key subflows: snapshot operations, complete with insight on when the snapshots were created and deleted, as well as their status. And you can also get insight into VMs needing snapshot consolidation. Number
Cool.
of snapshots.
So the cool thing about what Kelsey just showed was we used to have this capability in a product called Skyline. So now what Kelsey showed us was now it's integrated in. So just like, before we had to have customers go to different screens, they had different components, where now with VCF 9.0, all these components have been moved in, whether, it's like the logging that Sachin was talking about, as well as, the SDC manager that Kyle was talking about. Those are now all integrated into the screens here on the left in VCF operations, including the health and diagnostics that Kelsey showed. So that's one of the improvements in VCF 9.0, where we're not asking customers to go to multiple different views and different screens and different logins, with single sign-on and just with this dashboard in VCF operations that Sachin was talking about. Now they can do this all in one place. So it's a lot easier for our customers to correlate, across network, storage, and compute, versus having to go to multiple different places. So we'll go ahead and get started with the next section. All right. And this one is the edge. So, all right. So what we want to talk about next was how to extend the VCF across to the edge or public or sovereign clouds. So one of the key things here is we actually have a SKU for edge deployments, and this is VMware Cloud Foundation Edge SKU. And basically it's for, smaller locations where at the edge, whether it's, the factories or retail sites or smaller locations, not like the whole data center, where you want the same capabilities of VMware Cloud Foundation. So all the capabilities that we talked about today, they're also available in the edge SKU, and it's very different from the robo strategy that we had. We used to have a SKU called remote office, branch office, but that feature set was more limited. It was kind of like at the time when we had different licensing, it was like an advanced versus like the enterprise feature set. But here with VMware Cloud Foundation, we've simplified that. And now with the edge SKU, basically all the capabilities that you can do in the data center are also available in the VCF edge SKU. So that this way, in terms of your training, your staff, they don't have to know different things. It's the same capabilities that they're using in the data center as well as the edge. So that's one key thing that's available, and it's going to make it a lot easier. And then also with this capability of license portability, so using a certified public cloud or hyperscaler via partner, you can run the same workloads, whether you do the private cloud on premises or you can do the private cloud in the cloud. And then also use tools like VCF Operations HCX, and that's a demo that we'll have Puneet show. And then also just having that consistency across as you're going, working as you have the workloads across the environment. So let's go ahead and go to the next slide. And we'll show a customer who's actually uses VCF Edge, and this is Audi. They actually have a factory in Germany, where they're building their e-tron GT car. And they've had a situation where they basically had multiple different IPCs or industrial PCs, as well as programmable logic controllers on the network. And then, just maintaining that and doing the upgrades and, maintaining those workloads, it was a lot more complicated the traditional way they're doing it. So now they're using the VCF or edge infrastructure to run those workloads. So they're finding it a lot easier, whether it's, lifecycle, which is, upgrading to the latest infrastructure, and all the other capabilities that we have with VCF, they're able to streamline their factories. So this is also a use case, and also we have a video also online where you can look into more details of this. And this is something that we talked about also at Explore, and the customer also was there at Explore just recently in Las Vegas, talking about their use of VMware Cloud Foundation. So what we'll do is we'll go ahead and do a demo next. This is the network extension demo that Puneet has created for us. So let me bring that up.
A core promise of VCF Private Cloud is true workload mobility. The freedom to run your application where they make the most sense. But network is often, the biggest hurdle here. Moving a workload typically means you must change its IP address, which introduces complexity, risks, and downtime. But today, I'll show you how HCX, which is a key part of VMware Cloud Foundation, solves this with a feature called network extension. It's important to note that while this demo shows an on-prem to on-prem scenario, the same powerful capability works wherever VCF is running, either as a private cloud in your data center, or maybe in a hyperscaler, or with any official Broadcom partner clouds. On the screen, you see I have my primary data center, my vCenter, and we have this critical CRM application database VM running here on the stretch 3001 VC network. The IP is 172.16.128.411. Our goal is to gain mobility for this virtual machine, allowing it to run in our new VCF private cloud subnet without changing that IP address. To do this, we'll switch over to VCF Operations HCX, where we can see the map view showing both our sites. They are paired and recognized by HCX. So next, we'll navigate to Network Extension submenu. Now watch how simple this is. First, I'll select my on-prem network we want to extend, so our stretch 3001 VC network from this list. Next, we'll provide the destination network information. Now, in this demo, we'll select our VLAN network into VPC subnet, but HCX also support other networks like VLAN to VLAN network stretch. So I'll provide the gateway information of the destination subnet and its access mode type from this dropdown. I can also check settings like allow overlapping source, VLAN, or IP subnet or network profile. We'll validate our configuration. So in the background, it checks both on the source and destination side. And I simply submit our request. Here we go. Our new stretch network is getting configured in the backend. So yeah, in just a few minutes, HCX is creating a secure, high-performance layer 2 tunnel, right? Think of it as plugging a long extension cable from between the sites, and this can be done over any network, like public network or a VPN, or if you're doing to public cloud, you have a direct or express route, you can utilize that. Here we have successfully created our network from the VLAN to the VPC subnet, and this concludes our demo. Thank you for watching.
Cool. So thanks, Puneet, for building that demo of the network extension. So he basically showed the mobility across the different VCF private clouds as you can move workloads. So let me go back to the slides. So this is a screen of VCF operations. You saw it in some of the demos, but basically the key thing here is to point out that, all those capabilities have been integrated now. So as you can see, we have inventory, we have infrastructure operations, then we have workload operations, and then this new concept of fleet management that Sachin was talking about, where now we have identity or single sign-on across the components. And then you can also manage your certificates and, update the certificates and get alerts, as well as, maintaining the passwords across the infrastructure and then tags on your compute side, as well as looking at configuration drifts, which is, if on your vCenter, if you see some configurations that are off from a golden profile, to actually look at that so you can fix it, as well as lifecycle to upgrade. And then you can also see other capabilities like, cost and capacity that Sachin had talked about, as well as security, which is going to be covered in a future webinar. And then the license management that was also talked about today, where we've simplified license management. So if you have a VCF 9.0 environment, licensing is going to be managed here from the operations screen, along with the business services console on the support portal. So all these capabilities and steps are here, and this is one of the key interfaces that you're going to use for VCF 9.0. So the next steps in terms of that, definitely reach out to your Broadcom sales team, whether it's also on the partner side. We do have a PCMO or private cloud maturity optimization tool that our sellers as well as partners have access to work with you on, and you can answer questions with them on the portal, and then it'll give you an assessment of how ready you are for VCF 9.0 and some potential improvements and benefits you'll see running VCF 9.0. Also, we have a set of hands-on labs, especially for VCF operations, along with other components in VCF, and that's available online there. And then, you can also start a VCF 9.0 trial. So if you go to your support portal, and then on the left side, you can see under trials and beta, you can go ahead and request a trial. And then one thing that we've done with VCF 9.0, we've increased the trial time. So instead of trials were 60 days, now with VCF 9.0, trials are 90 days. So you can go ahead and build an environment and test out some of these features and functionality. So thanks again, and thanks to the team here. Sachin, Alex, Kelsey Lemon, Puneet Chawla, and Kyle Gleed. And thanks for joining today's webinar.